Ghost of Tsushima is a fantastic game with stunning visuals, satisfying gameplay, and a great story. Today I'll be getting the Platinum Trophy on Lethal difficulty to make it a bit more challenging. So sit back and enjoy the journey of the legendary samurai Jin Sakai. The story begins moments before the samurai face off against the Mongols who have invaded the island. We see Jin next to his uncle Lord Shimura leading the charge, and he gives a final speech before heading onto the battlefield. We send one of our best warriors named Adachi in the hopes of making the enemy retreat, but instead gets confronted by Koten Khan. He throws some flammable liquid, tosses a torch at him, and cuts off his head with a spear. The Khan asks the samurai to surrender, and our uncle responds by sending his men into the battlefield. Making our way to the beach, we get stopped by an explosion and see a Mongol coming to attack us where we're trapped, but are saved by our uncle. He helped us get up, and I got my first experience with the combat on Lethal, and it was straightforward. It wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be, as I breezed through this section without a problem.
You suck!
We see the Khan and charge towards him, but get knocked back by an explosion. As Jin recovers, he sees his uncle being captured, so he tries to help but gets shot by an arrow, but that doesn't stop him as he continues forward. However, the pain is too much and he passes out. We see the Khan introduce himself to Lord Shimura and asks once again if he surrenders, and his response is silence, so the Khan takes a katana and kills him. Afterward, we see Jin still has some life in him and wakes up with bandages around his body. He heads to a nearby village to see the carnage done by the Mongols and encounters a woman named Yuna, the person who healed us, and after she takes care of a guard, we follow her to get our sword back. We tell her who we are and ask if our uncle is alive, and she isn't sure but saw the enemy taking him somewhere. Jin recovers his sword and gets a flashback to when he was younger and see him practicing his sword skills. Our uncle observes us and plans to teach us how to fight properly. This section was a basic tutorial on how the combat system works, and after learning them, we had a sparring match and I came out the victor. After the match, he mentions an honor code that we must follow as samurai and that is important to never break. We transition to the present and will be putting our training to the test with this enemy. You're going down, buddy. Okay, never mind. Yeah, it seems like I still need to get used to the combat as I kept losing, but eventually defeated him. We find out Yuna's brother has been captured, which explains why she saved us so we can rescue him. Jin agrees, but saving his uncle comes first. We grab a horse from the stable and leave toward where our uncle has been taken and earn our first story trophy. We reach Castle Canada, test out a new skill we learned, and after defeating some Mongols, Yuna thinks we should leave. Jin tells her to go back to the horses while he grabs his uncle to make a quick getaway. After defeating some Mongols, Jin calls out the Khan and he shows up. We prepare our katana to avenge our uncle, but it turns out that he is totally fine, and we stand off with the Khan for our first boss battle, which in this game are called duels. We try to damage him but get denied easily, and he eventually hits an Olympic gymnastic move on Jin, causing us to lose the fight. He offers us a way out and we respond by slashing his face. This angers him, so he grabs our throat and tosses us off the bridge into the water. We get a flashback where Jin sees his father about to be killed and he asks for our help, but we do nothing and watch our dad die. After leaving the water, we have to think of a new plan to rescue our uncle. We meet up with Yuna and tell her everything that happened. Jin thinks it's best to split up to find some allies in our quest to save our uncle. She mentions that our brother can help by making any tool we can dream of and promises that we will rescue him. The both of us get on our horses and go our separate ways and get one of the best game title intros of all time and start Act 1. Before continuing the story, I decided to do a side mission, and this gave me the authentic experience of how tough lethal difficulty is. I died a lot of times during this mission, and it got so bad that the game was offering me to quit, but I was determined to complete this. However, I kept losing and my hopes of finishing the game on Lethal were out the window. Give me a break. After this death, I decided that it was time to change the difficulty so I could have an easier time, but I said screw that as I remembered a wise man telling me this.
We face our enemy head on. When we take their life, we look them in the eye with courage and respect. This is what makes us samurai.
After hearing that, I knew I had to focus on defeating these guys and eventually got down to the final guy. Let's go! Finally. Once I finished the mission, my reward after an hour of suffering was 10 linen.
This is not right. This is not cool. This is fucking bullshit.
We catch up to Yuna and are outside the camp where her brother is located. She says we have to go in quietly, but Jin can't do that as that breaks the honor code that he promised his uncle to uphold. Yuna says to at least bend it to save our family, and he agrees and kills this Mongol and feels bad doing it. We find out that her brother is in a different camp that will be difficult to get into, but she says she has a friend to help them get inside. She mentions that once we rescue him and craft us a tool, they both will be leaving the island. Jin tries to convince her to stay and fight the Khan, but she has already made up her decision and get another trophy. We find our first warrior, which is Sensei Ishikawa. Jin informs Sensei that our uncle is alive and would like his help to rescue him. However, he has a missing student that he needs to find first, and we offer our help, and in return he joins our team. The clues point to a student Tomoe being in this camp, and while fighting some Mongols, I got a trophy for staggering enemies 50 times. However, once inside, it turns out she betrayed Sensei and joined up with the Mongols. He wants to prevent her from teaching them her archery skills and tell him that we will help stop her. Now, we won't find out the ending of this storyline yet, as it goes with a later trophy. Afterward, I got a trophy for collecting my first sword kit. While doing some side activities, I encountered my first official duel, and after dying so many times on the other mission, I was confident in defeating this warlord in one attempt.
Mission failed.
Unfortunately, that was not the case, as I lost several times, but let me tell you that it felt satisfying when I defeated him with only a few moves. Next, we find Lady Masako, tell her about her uncle, and ask for her and her clan's help. However, she says that her entire clan is dead and plans to find out who murdered them, so we accompany her. We find the man responsible, but it turns out he is just a messenger, and we try to find out who he works for, but Lady Masako lets her anger get the best of her and murders the man. There was a piece of paper with the man that could point out the culprit that killed their family and children. Just like Sensei, we won't find out who is responsible just yet, as it relates to a trophy. The next person to recruit is the Straw Hats, so we find our childhood friend Rizzo. Jin asks to speak to his leader, but he died on the beach. He says that he's the temporary leader but can't help as his men are starving. We tell him once we rescue our uncle that he and his clan will get all the food they want. Rizzo seems interested and takes us to his camp and gives us our own Straw Hat outfit. We plan on taking over a nearby fort that has food, so we head there, and after defeating some Mongols, it turns out all the supplies have been moved to a boat. However, once we reach the ship, we leave empty-handed due to them being destroyed by the Mongols. Jin did find a map that could be useful and gave it to Rizzo and asked him to join him in rescuing our uncle, which rewarded us with a trophy. We catch up with Yuna and her friend Kenji, who delivers sake to the Mongol camp and smuggle us inside. Once we enter the camp, Yuna rescues Taka before he gets hurt, and we help him get up to escape. After leaving the camp, Yuna thanked us and we got another trophy. Jin goes to Taka asking for a tool to help him save his uncle, and after some time he crafts us a hook and thanks him for assisting us. Rizzo informs us that some of his men have been taken to a nearby fort. So we head to the camp, save them, defeat the remaining Mongols, and afterward Rizzo appreciates us for helping him save his clan. Next, I did some exploring and got 2 trophies, one for unlocking every fighting stance after defeating this Mongol leader, and the other one for acquiring 30 pieces of vanity gear. Jin meets up with Yuna and informs her to tell everybody to get ready, as tonight they will free his uncle. When it is time to storm the castle, we worry about Rizzo as he is nowhere to be found. We decided to start without them and march forward with the plan. Making our way through the castle, Jin sees Rizzo is already inside waiting for us. We're surprised and find out from him that the Khan put a bounty on us and he plans to accept it. Jin tries to convince him to help us instead, and our uncle will give his men all the food and finally make him a samurai. However, Rizzo has made up his mind and now must fight against our childhood friend. Even though we helped him throughout the story, it feels wrong to be betrayed, but the only thing stopping me from rescuing my uncle is him, so I must defeat him. I knew I would struggle with this fight after my previous experience on Lethal, but somehow managed to defeat Rizzo on my first try. We tried to convince him to join us, but he calls out the Mongols and informed them of our location and sneaks away. Afterward, we find our uncle, rescue him, and prepare to leave, but he says not yet as the Khan has left to go north to a different castle. Our uncle thinks they should defeat the remaining Mongols in his castle and take it back, and after doing that he gives a speech and plans to get rid of the Mongols on the island, and once he is done talking we get another trophy. We get a shot of the castle where the Khan is and ask them to let him inside before he kills the hostages, but they decline. Rizzo is also with him and wants what was promised to his men. The Khan says he needs to earn it, so he hands the torch and tells them to kill the hostages. He kills one, and while heading to the second person, Rizzo pleads to them to open the gates, and they do, letting the Khan walk in. Jin meets his uncle and confronts us about the methods we use to rescue him, and while he appreciates us, he doesn't want us to continue down that path. We bring up how Yuna wants safe passage to the mainland and he will grant it as long as she helps him take back his castle in the north. During a mission, I get a trophy for killing an enemy with fall damage when I shoot this guy climbing the ladder. After that, we light up a lighthouse to send a message to the Khan, and my uncle tells me the game plan, which includes retrieving our father's armor, recruiting more people, and finding a man to send a letter to the shogun for reinforcement. Jin encounters a monk named Norio and asks us about his brother, but tells him he died at the beach and now wants to find out his brother's killer. Same thing with Lady Masako and Sensei, we won't find out till later as it relates to a trophy. We ask him to join our cause of defeating the Khan and he agrees, which starts Act 2. I got a trophy for liberating 12 areas in Izuhara and another for equipping 6 charms. We meet up with Yuna and Taka outside Yarikawa, which is surrounded by Mongols, so we had to sneak in. Once inside, we offered our service to eliminate the Mongols, but they weren't thrilled about the help until we did them a favor of looking for some missing people. After finding them, we head back to the village and see Mongols planning to attack and destroy the place. Jin tells Yuna to head back inside while he stops them alone. While fighting them, I get a trophy for defeating 20 enemies with a perfect parry counterattack. After stopping them, we head back to the village and have a duel with Tomoge, one of the Khan's best warriors. Now I have gained some experience playing on Lito, so this battle will be easy until he brings the flaming sword into the battle. But that wasn't going to stop me and continue the fight without a problem until this happened.
Here, you die.
Yep, let's cue the death montage.
Loser! You're a loser! Are you feeling sorry for yourself? Well, you should be, because you are dirt! You make me sick, you big baby!
This battle was breaking my spirit as I kept losing, and even though I was making it further into a fight, I kept dying. About 30 deaths later, I eventually defeated him and was excited it was over. Let's go. We put our sword through Tomoge and slice off his head, which unlocks a new stance and tests it out on these poor souls. After using it, I take this opportunity to grab a trophy for shooting an enemy while they are fleeing. Jin asked the village to join him in fighting the Khan after saving them, and they all bowed to us and agreed to help, which earns us a trophy. I also got one for collecting 10 gifts. And another for reaching Omogi Cove while breaking every bone in my body. We find a man our uncle said will deliver his message to a shogun named Goro. He agrees to pay off his debt with this mission, and Jin tells his uncle the news. We plan on escorting him to his boat, but first must deal with Mongols. Once they are defeated, Goro sails to the mainland and our uncle praises the work we have done. He mentions that his message also included an announcement to adopt us as his son, as he feels we are the true heir of his legacy. After we eliminate the Mongols, it will be official. Following that statement, we head to our home and encounter Yuriko, who took care of us as a child. Jin asks for his father's armor and she takes us to it and we put it on. Afterward, we ask her for any tool available to help defeat the enemy, and she mentions poison. So we make a blowgun and test it out on these guys and earn a trophy. I also got a trophy for liberating 8 areas in Toyotama. We meet up with our uncle, who informs us that the reinforcement will be arriving shortly, but we must deal with Rizzo first. Jin plans to go to his location and asks Yuna to accompany us. However, she doesn't want to, as our uncle got her safe passage to the mainland and their boat leaves tomorrow and thinks we should do it alone. We thank her for everything she has done for us and say our goodbyes. However, Taka followed us to Rizzo's location and wanted to help, but we said it was a bad idea. We agree for him to only be a distraction and leave as soon as he is done. Jin confronts Rizzo and finds out from him that the Khan would like to see us, but we didn't come to talk, and while we are distracted, a Mongol sneaks up behind us and takes us down. When we wake up, we are tied to a pole and notice that Taka has been captured. The Khan shows up and asks us again to surrender to him, but we said we won't. He offers Taka freedom as long as he kills Jin, so he grabs the sword and accepts his offer. Right before Taka stabs us, he takes a chance to attack the Khan but fails. The Khan then takes the sword and slices Taka's head. He rips the head off from his body, gloats about it, and plans to do it to all of our friends. We break free from the rope, recover our gear, and plan to murder anyone left in the camp. During our killing spree, I earned a trophy for defeating 5 enemies in a single standout, which the fully upgraded Sakai clan armor allows me to do. Yuna finds us and asks us about Taka, and we break the news to her, but she doesn't believe it, so she heads towards his body and can't accept the fact that he is gone.
You shouldn't have made him come!
We help her bury Taka and ask Yuna to fight alongside us and avenge her brother. She agreed to stay and fight and earned another trophy. After some time, we find her and tell her to prepare for battle. Jin meets with his uncle and tells him about his meeting with the Khan and the death of Taka. Our uncle mentions that the shogun approved his decision to adopt us and prepare to ride to the castle. We regroup with our allies outside the castle and enter the battlefield. After defeating some Mongols, we break into the castle, poison the enemy, and use the opportunity to kill the leader by slicing his head off while our uncle watches. He confronts us about breaking the honor code, and before he continues, we get interrupted by some Mongols. After defeating them, they retreat and use the opportunity to lure us into a trap on the bridge that explodes and kills some of our people. My uncle wants to rebuild the bridge right away, but we disagree and offer another solution. We head to his quarter and tell him our plan to sneak in and poison them. He doesn't like it as it breaks their code and is ashamed of who we are becoming. Jin tells him his ways are useless against the enemy and that he is failing to save our people.
I gave them hope. You did nothing.
We leave and let him think about what he just did. Jin meets up with Yuna and tells her about his plan, and she mentions that Taka was making us something and thought that we should have it, which turns out to be a new set of armor. We put it on and sneak into the castle and watch the poison take effect on them. Jin heads inside the building but gets confronted by Rizzo. He stayed behind to claim the bounty and we told him to bring it then. However, he wants to talk it out and says that we should team up. We tell him to surrender and pay for his crimes, and Rizzo says he won't. We have our second fight, and like the previous time, I will beat him on my first attempt.
You should have surrendered.
Round 2, buddy. shouldn't have said anything. Past me was wrong, as just like other fights, I kept losing over and over again. Come on. Not sure how I got worse, but somehow I did. This is the run right here. I'm beating him. Why did I open my mouth? Pushing through the pain of constantly dying, I finally overcame this battle. Let's go! Finally. After defeating Riza, we put our blade through him and put an end to his life. Jin leaves the building and is met by Yuna and his uncle, and he tells them he did what was necessary. The Shogun would demand our head for our actions, and my uncle thinks that it should be Yuna's for her bad influence on us and asks Jin to join his side as father and son.
I am not your son. I am the ghost.
After embracing our new nickname, we give Yuna our gear to find the Khan up north and surrender to my uncle, which earns us another trophy. We see Jin as a prisoner and get a visit from Kenji, who is here to break us free. He tells us it's now or never, as orders from the Shogun came through for our head. Jin tells him to find our allies and to meet us up north. We grab our horse and escape the castle, but the horse gets shot by arrows, and while heading north, it unfortunately dies, so we say goodbye to it and start the third and final act. Jin gets poisoned by some Mongols and passes out. When he wakes up, he sees that Yuna has again saved his life and tells her it is time to kill the Khan. We find a base and use it as our headquarters and look for some allies. Yuna mentions someone who can help named Takeshi, and we go to him. After offering him a new home, he and his people will be glad to help, so we go to a nearby fort and defeat the remaining Mongols while also meeting up with some of our old allies and prepare for the final fight, which earns us a trophy. Before that, I decided to do some side activities to earn some trophies, the first one being to liberate 7 areas in Kamigata. Next was to complete every mythical tale mission, and these give some powerful rewards like armor and skills like a flaming sword. Almost every mission had me defeat a person, and after completing them, I was rewarded with a trophy. I earned another trophy for getting 20 kills with a ghost dance and for reaching the highest rank. Next, I had to buy an item from the white dye merchant and a black dye merchant. And the final one was to fully upgrade my katana. We meet up with Yuna and tell her we still need more allies, and Jin thinks it is best to ask his uncle for his help. We write him a message and leave it in his room. Afterward, Yuna asks us if my uncle will be joining us, and we say that hopefully he does, but can't wait as they plan to attack in a few hours. Jin also mentions to Yuna that if anything happens to him, she must continue our fight. The time has arrived and we send the first shot at them and fight our way through Port Izumi. After defeating the first wave of enemies, we regroup with our allies and say today is the day when the Khan dies, and we will continue forward without the help from my uncle. Jin thanks them all for what they have done for this battle and hopes to see everyone once it's finished. Inside the camp, Jin notices the Khan and hears a horn in the distance, which ends up being our uncle joining in the fight. With my uncle's help, we managed to come face to face with the Khan and finally have our rematch. In the first fight, he came out the victor, but all the experience I've gained throughout this journey will prove that I am the superior warrior. All of my training is put into this battle. I will win no matter what.
Yeah, you suck. You just fucking suck. Blows my mind that somebody like this not only exists, but also is delusional enough to post it online.
Yeah, I might have been wrong with that previous statement, as this battle was tough with his long range and his combos instantly melting my health bar. What was that? But with each death, I started to understand his patterns and was slowly lowering his health. Come on, did the run. However, he got me good and decided to use a skill I learned that revived me and put me back into the fight, but costing me my remaining resolve points. And with no HP, this happened. Oh my god. Let's go! My excitement will have to wait a moment as the Khan throws poison at us and sends his men after us while he escapes. Once I defeat them, we catch up to him and prepare our swords to be covered with the blood of the Khan. After taking out his army of Mongols, we confront him and give the Khan the ultimate combo, which ends with us stabbing him and finally avenging Taka.
You will be forgotten.
Jin leaves the ship before it burns down and meets up with Yuna. She helps us leave the battlefield and informs Jin that his uncle wants to see us and plans to meet him, which earns us another trophy. We find him and he tells us that we are no longer a samurai and declared as a traitor, and the Shogun has ordered my uncle to take our head. He gives us a piece of paper and both of them write their final words as they will have a duel to the death. The final battle is against my uncle, which will be the ultimate test for me. I've trained for hours, days, and weeks for this fight, and I will come out the better man once I defeat him in my first attempt. The better man is not me, apparently. I did manage to get this cool sequence during a run. Ooh, that was nasty. However, I would die later and continue to keep pushing further after losing a lot. During my best run, I would lose but decide to get back into the fight by reviving myself, and after learning his attack pattern, I would defeat him. After we knock him down, Jin slashes his uncle and asks us to honor him with an honorable death. The game gives us the option to kill or spare him.
I have no honor, but I will not kill my family.
I decided not to kill him since he is the only family I've got, and accepted the fact that we will be hunted for the rest of our lives for the actions we have done. Jin puts on his ghost mask and walks off into the distance as the game fades to white and we get a trophy for finishing the story. With the story completed, it is time to get the remaining trophies. The first set I go for is for liberating each area of Tsushima, so here's a quick montage of me doing that. After clearing the last place, I also got a trophy for liberating the entire island. Then I went and collected 20 artifacts and 20 records, and rekindled every lighthouse. Next, I had to complete every hot springs, haiku, Inari shrines, and bamboo strikes. After finishing the last bamboo strike, the trophy pops up. I had to honor every Shinto shrine. For this next trophy, I had to find these hidden posts around the island and bow to them. Once I bowed to 10 of them, the trophy pops up. I unlocked every ghost weapon. If you remembered earlier, I mentioned we will finish our different ally stories, and now's the time. Starting with Norio, we located his brother's killer and offered our help, but he decides to confront him alone and burns him alive, which earns us a trophy. Next up is Lady Masako. We find out the person who killed her family was her sister. We find her and give her our sword so she can end her own life, and after she does that, we get the trophy. Then is Sensei Ishikawa. We find Tomoe and she wants our help after being betrayed by the Khan. After helping her, she disappears and leaves a note saying she's leaving behind her life and wants to start fresh in a different place and earn a trophy. The final one is Yuna, and I left her for last as I will get 2 additional trophies. Her story involved luring out a Mongol leader who has been attacking one of her friends, and after confronting him, we have a duel. After defeating him, I get a trophy for completing every duel, for completing every side quest, and of course for finishing Yuna's story mission. Then I had to dress up as a legendary thief, which is an Easter egg to Sly Cooper. Next I had to play a song at Taka's grave. The final trophy left for me was to use photo mode, and with that, the platinum is acquired. If you want to see another platinum video, then check out this one on the screen, or go to the comment section and let me know which game I should play next. Have a nice day, and I'll see you next time.